All right, let's get into it. This is a wild story, really. How did this one small island nation end up building the biggest empire in history, get through two of the most devastating wars ever, and somehow keep reinventing itself?
So that's the big question, right? How did they build this massive empire and then basically let it all go? In this explainer, we're going to follow that whole dramatic journey, the incredible rise, the staggering price of all that power, and this ongoing quest for a new identity in a world they pretty much shaped.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We're starting way back in the early 1700s. And this isn't just any old date on a calendar. This is the moment a brand new, unified, and seriously ambitious nation was born, Great Britain.
And this right here, this was the game changer. The Acts of Union brought together the parliaments of England and Scotland, creating one single, much more powerful state. You can think of this political merger as the launching pad for everything that came next, this absolutely massive global expansion. So, that first century was just a total whirlwind. First, after unifying, they had to deal with rebellions at home, like the Jacobite Risings, which were all about putting a different royal family back on the throne. Once they stamped that out, they went on to win the 7 Years' War, which basically made them the #1 colonial power on the planet. But then, bam, a huge upset. They lose the American colonies, and that loss, it forced them to completely rethink their entire strategy. But here's the thing you've got to understand. Britain didn't just pack up and go home. Nope. It pivoted. Hard. Losing America actually sparked the creation of a second empire, one that was even bigger. This time, their eyes were on Asia, the Pacific, and Africa. The incredible wealth of India, those strategic trade routes, it was a whole new game.
All right, let's jump forward now to the 19th century, the Victorian era. This is really when Britain hits its absolute peak. We're talking the height of its economic and political power. It literally becomes known as the workshop of the world.
Just look at the contrast here. It's incredible. During Queen Victoria's reign, you see Britain go from this kind of rural, aristocratic society to a full-blown industrial, middle-class powerhouse. It's connected by this huge network of railways. And, get this, it's governing about a quarter of the entire world's population. The transformation is just staggering.
And this quote really nails it. It wasn't just about factories and empire. I mean, for all its problems, and there were many, the Victorian age also saw huge social changes. We're talking major reforms, a rising standard of living. For the first time, millions of ordinary people felt like, maybe progress was actually possible. But of course, this golden age couldn't last forever. The 20th century was just around the corner, and it brought with it two absolutely devastating world wars, conflicts that would cost Britain more than anyone could have possibly imagined.
I mean, just try to wrap your head around this number. 3 million. 3 million British casualties in World War I alone. That's killed, wounded, or missing. That kind of loss, it just leaves a permanent scar on a country.
They called them the Lost Generation for a reason. An entire generation of young men was just gone. And for those who did survive and come home, there was this feeling that nobody really understood what they'd been through, that their sacrifice wasn't valued. That disillusionment completely changed British society, especially how people thought about war.
And here's the incredible irony in all this. Britain was on the winning side in both world wars. But what did winning look like? It looked like financial ruin. The country was broke. Its industries were a mess, and its time as a global superpower, well, that was over. For good.
So think about it. The empire's falling apart. You're no longer the top dog on the world stage. Britain was facing a massive identity crisis. The question was pretty simple, but terrifying. What are we now?
And the answer, really, was to look inward. After the war, Britain focused on building a new kind of society at home. They created one of the world's most comprehensive welfare states. You've got the National Health Service, nationalized industries. The whole idea was to build a fairer, more equal country from the ashes of war, to take care of people from cradle to grave. At the same time, its role in the world had to completely change. The empire was dismantled, starting with India and Pakistan in '47. It was replaced by the Commonwealth, a voluntary club of independent nations. So the dynamic shifts, right? It's no longer ruler and subject. It's supposed to be about partnership.
Then comes another huge pivot. In 1973, Britain joins what would become the European Union. Think about that for a second. For centuries, everything was about the global empire. Now it was tying its future to its neighbors in Europe. This one decision would shape British politics for the next half-century.
Okay, so that brings us closer to today. Let's look at how all these huge historical forces, empire, war, all this reinvention, have created the really complex and, let's be honest, often divided Britain we see in the 21st century.
The new millennium basically brought a whole new set of challenges. You have devolution, where Scotland and Wales get their own parliaments, which starts to create some divergence. Then the 2008 financial crisis hits, putting an end to years of economic growth and kicking off a long period of austerity. And through it all, the question of Scottish independence just never really goes away.
And then you get to this. This chart, it just says it all, doesn't it? The 2016 Brexit referendum. It perfectly shows how all those tensions came to a head. The country was split right down the middle, 52 to 48. It laid bare all these deep, deep divisions about what it even means to be British, about sovereignty, about Britain's place in the world.
And so, on January 31st, 2020, it happened. The UK officially left the EU. This was the start of its latest great reinvention. I mean, it basically reversed almost 50 years of history and set the country on a brand new and very uncertain course.
So where does that leave us? After 300 years, from forming a kingdom to building a global empire, surviving world wars, and reinventing itself over and over, what defines Britain's next chapter? That really is the big question. The story of the UK has always been about constant, dramatic change, and it looks like the next chapter is still very much being written.